There is an interesting and growing phenomenon that I'm sure people have noticed in regards to Spider-Man media. What am I talking about in particular? I am talking about the idea that there is Spider-Man media that comes out. It could be good, it could be a game, it could be a comic book, it could be a movie, it could be anything, TV show, whatever the fuck it is, right? It comes out to glowing praise. The build up from the trailers to the actual product coming out actually pays off. And when it pays off, people love it. We see this with No Way Home. We've seen this with Spider-Man PS4. We've seen this with Into the Spider-Verse. Glowing positive praise across the board for storytelling, gameplay purposes, and how they handle the characterization of Spider-Man. Everything is fine. Then you give it like maybe a few weeks later, maybe even a month, a year even, and then you start to see these opinion pieces crop up that turn against the product. People will say, oh, this game was overrated. Spider-Man PS4 was overrated. It was never really that great. It wasn't that good. It's not even the best Spider-Man game. And it's an interesting turn of events, an interesting paradigm, because from launch to now, you rarely seen any problems relating to the game being overrated or the game being absolutely dog shit, etc. Granted, am I saying that Spider-Man PS4 is a perfect Spider-Man title? Is there disparities in some of the pacing that I would have preferred to be taken out? Yes, I mean, we always point to the Mary Jane segment and how that could have been better, or maybe she could have been like an NPC in the background as opposed to having that gameplay element in there. People found playing with someone without powers was boring, or walking around with Peter Parker and not really doing much outside of investigating. But I could see in that regard that he would do something like that, because you have to remember Spider-Man himself is a duality. It is Peter Parker, it is Spider-Man, but Mary Jane segments and playing as Miles Morales in that little sort of tense segment of him hiding from the Rhino, I can see those aspects being cut down, filed down, but it really doesn't last that long. It's just sections of the game that people did complain about, as well as you know, things relating to the final boss not being that awe-inspiring. Doc Ock was definitely someone in Spider-Man PS4 where the gameplay there could have been refined more, fleshed out more, and it feels like it's over before you even know it, as opposed to Spider-Man PS1 where it's like you're playing against Doc Ock and it feels like a multi-tier segment, and you're fucking scared when that symbiote gets on Doc Ock and he turns into Monster Ock, and it's all cool. But I digress. This is my Spider-Man like fan side talking right now. Still, there is this growing phenomenon of people coming out and saying these games are trash, were never that good, or saying these movies was never that good, like No Way Home, and they had no merit, no value, and I hate them, and they never should have existed. Okay, I think the part of this growing phenomenon of hatred against good Spider-Man media is, first and foremost, everyone wants to get out there and be the outlier now. This day and age, people will listen to stupid ass people. And I know that has been tried and true with negativity and misinformation, giving people exposure. It happens all the time. Even in my own series, most of these people that I cover and the stuff that they say, they're not really that bright when it comes to some of their criticisms on video games, which is why it's called Your Criticism Sucks. Therefore, it's quite interesting and hilarious for them, and they just go out, and once again, negativity does cause a spike in recognition for algorithms, whether it be X or Twitter or YouTube. People want to listen to that outlier mindset, right? And that's fine. That is fine as a simple premise to do, whether you agree or disagree with what's going on. There's always going to be channels that will be opposed to the popular thing because that is popular and that's something they want to do. whether it's sane logic or not is relative to the observer, because some of this shit is absolutely dumb. You look at some of the stuff Amazing Lucas talks about with Spider-Man wanting a whole different reboot for Spider-Man 2. And that is absolutely ridiculous. It's supposed to be a full-fledged sequel. Some of his opinions make no fucking sense, and this is what we have with certain grifters and clout chasers in the community making these like assumptions and analysis videos. Then the rest turns on, is it actually warranted, depending on what they say, because depending on what they say, there could be validity and there could be bullshit in the middle of it. And like I said, it is the popular thing to do, to bash the popular thing. I think this very thing is going to happen to Spider-Man PS5, Spider-Man 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2. There's going to be very mundane complaints. There's already cherry picking about the game from those proposed channels that I talked about, saying that the animations are not as great, that they reuse assets, even though every fucking sequel in the book has reused an asset from the first game. And we all know this. We all know this is a fact. No Way Home is apparently nostalgia bait. That's another one. Nostalgia has been sort of slope that has been going on in the mainstream media, where it's like there's good nostalgia and then there's bad nostalgia, and you can decipher what is in between. But you have characters that people were readily excited for, like Tobey Maguire coming back as Peter Parker and Andrew Garfield actually having a great command performance in Spider-Man No Way Home, and actually rewarding his arc with the death of Gwen Stacy when he caught MJ and he's like all swelling up and crying. And it's like, that's cool. Like when they actually have credit and positivity where it's due, where they actually accomplish their goal and you resonate with what's going on, I don't see the worst thing about it. But again, I find going out of their way and saying that these games, movies, shows, or criteria is shit is something that needs more context, is something that needs more elaboration, and is something that is sometimes said by these grifters and channels out of a place of negative passion versus actually being constructive and citing out what is the real problem behind said movie, TV show, or game. There are channels that focus on the former versus the latter, but sometimes it could be the opposite, and that's why these sort of opinions are called out, because I'm gonna be honest, not every opinion out there is great that you ape off of and sheep off of on the internet. As my phone goes off, shut the fuck up, phone, shut up. As my phone, I'm leaving that in there, by the way, as people just ape off of these and be like, oh, the Spider-Man PS4 is never good. It's like, oh shit, well, you know, describe why, explain why, give thoughts as to why, versus regurgitating what another person says and knowing that this is not your total mindset. Maybe you do like that game, maybe you can go nuance and cite the positives and negatives of the whole situation. So I just find that funny. I think that's gonna come with not only the new Spider-Verse movie, the third one that's gonna come out, even though they had like a fucking banger ending. We're going to see that with Spider-Man 2. We're going to see people say, oh, well, you know, it's a reasonable ask to have like Venom in the game. Maybe they'll make some Spider-Man content that stand alone. Maybe we need that shit right there. I don't mind asking for that, because why can't we have a playable Venom? Let's have that in there. I'm saying something constructive though. Let's have that in the game. But all this other nonsense about how it was always bad, and there's a lot of cherry picking in a lot of comic criteria. It's not just Spider-Man, but it's also Batman. People do that with Batman. It's got to be pitch perfect. It's got to be of, you know, a certain standard, and I get that part of having the content up to a certain standard. But when it's actually great and then people turn around and say it was shit all along, I just need more elaboration to what is being said. Otherwise, I'm just going to disregard that and say that's just shallow talk. That's just some uncompassionate garbage, right? Explain why Spider-Man criteria has been bad this whole time. Now, there are some bad renditions of Spider-Man, like that current issue with, I forget the guy's name. All I know is that it is Peter Parker being miserable in the no, in the current rendition of Spider-Man. Peter Parker is super miserable. He doesn't have Mary Jane anymore. She's married to Paul. Yes, Paul. Fuck Paul and everything he stands for. I can't stand Paul's guts. Paul should die in the fire, and along with his whole family. I don't even care, fam. Paul is like one of the worst things that has been added to Spider-Man lore as of recent. But I can see that being very, very divisive. However, if it's like really good, if it's like people saying shit like Miles Morales was never great, or his current rendition was never great to begin with, or he's not Spider-Man, and just some disingenuous, stupid horse shit like that, that's not sincere in the slightest with Spider-Man media that's actually going forward in a great direction. Miles has been getting great stories, great games, great content. It's not like he's Peter 2.0 anymore. He's evolved into his own character. I feel like people just won't cite when Spider-Man is actually good, and that's just kind of a problem in general with how things are perceived nowadays. But that's my opinion on all of these shenanigans that have been going on for a while now. I just thought that it was interesting to share this phenomenon of folks saying, oh, everything related to Spider-Man is actually positive and great, is really shit. But it's like, you know, that perspective is going to be out there, but it's always going to be side-eyed by me, because if it's, as long as it's still good, it's the same thing that happened with the Spider-Man Fatigue video that I said before. Like, how are we getting Spider-Man fatigue? How are you tired of Spider-Man content when everything they're giving you keeps exceeding the bar? I just don't I just don't understand. I just don't get it. I don't understand how you could be tired of something that's constantly and consistently great in that sort of bubble and category. If someone could explain this behavior in the comments, I would love to know, but I just don't get it for the time being. So my name is Renegade Operative. I am signing off. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and this sort of deep dive and look into what is going on with Spider-Man reception. I find it to be quite interesting. It's interesting in a way, because you're seeing these games and movies and shows torn apart when majority of people, it's definitely a minority going on of good Spider-Man content being torn apart. But I would like to, people saying Insomniac was always trash, like what the fuck. That was something that people got on me for on the X app, and I found that to be absolutely strange, because not only have Insomniac games, have their content been mostly received well by general public and audience, but also the studio has been one of the PlayStation studios that came out and said they're advocating against crunch. And so many people were against crunch during that time, and it's like, oh, now Insomniac is worse, their practices are worse. And I just think that these people are grifters. I found out that guy that was complaining about that actually follow Insomniac back. He's like, oh, you follow Insomniac, they follow you back too. And it's like, okay fam, you follow them too, what the fuck are you talking about? You about to buy Spider-Man 2 day one, you on that FOMO pack, and you ain't even admitting it. It's so funny. There are people like that, and I just laugh at fools like that every singular time. We ain't acting like Wolverine ain't about to be copped. You about to be copping it too if you like that gameplay. We know how people fold during these trailers. Maybe they have some sort of inner spite because of this, and they just want to come out and say all this bullshit. But once again, if there is pacing issues or problems or stuff like that that is readily prevalent in Spider-Man 2 for PS5, then yeah, I will cite that in my review. I always do positives and negatives of what I found to be problems. Now, what everyone thinks is a problem is not a problem or flaw to me. That's one thing that people have to also understand. It could be said for vice versa, that's fine, but it's not a flaw to me that we play as Mary Jane for like a very, very short period of time. It doesn't detrimentally hurt the overall experience of playing Spider-Man for like 95%, or dealing with the cool web swinging. I seen people say the web swinging in that game was bad, but you know what? It's all whatever. It's just something that I've noticed. So what do you think of the growing surge of Spider-Man content being lambasted even when it's like super great? Do you feel the same way, or do you feel different and opposed to it? Sound off in the comments below, let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Later.